If you're watching this video, you've chosen the challenge organization for your claim-based paragraph. That means the paragraph that you're going to write today is going to use two pieces of evidence to support your claim rather than one. Let's take a moment to look at the organization that you've used in the past. You started with your claim or your argument, you introduced your evidence, you provided one piece of evidence, you wrote a longer section of explanation or analysis, and you wrapped it up with a concluding statement. The paragraph that you're going to write today is similar in that you have all the same parts. You're going to start with your claim, you'll introduce your evidence, your first piece of evidence, explanation. You're going to do this twice though. So you will have two pieces of evidence and two sections of explanation or analysis. Your sections of explanation or analysis, however, are going to be a bit shorter, 3 to 4 sentences each, rather than the 6 to 8 that you would have done in the past. You're also going to provide a transition sentence that's going to come right in between your pieces of evidence. So your transition sentence builds a bridge between your pieces of evidence. A couple of really easy sentence starters that you can use. The author also shows blank when or another example of blank is. The most important part of this claim-based paragraph, this organization, is that you're choosing evidence that really works together to support your claim, and you're not choosing evidence that's similar. If you choose evidence that's too similar, what you're going to find is that you really struggle to write two different sections of explanation or analysis. You're going to end up saying the same thing. So I'm going to be modeling this organization with Children of Blood and Bone, the text that you were working with this last week. So let's take a look at my claim. So your claim is your argument. It's the statement that you have to prove to the reader by the end of the paragraph. So here's my claim. Despite her outward strength, Zaylee, the main character in Children of Blood and Bone by Tommy Ademi, feels helpless. So there are two things that I have to prove to you as the reader by the end of the paragraph. I need to prove to you that Zaylee shows outward strength and that despite this, she feels helpless or weak. So I'm actually going to choose my first piece of evidence to show you her outward strength. So one of the ways that I am going to make sure that I choose evidence that works together and it isn't too similar is I'm going to choose one piece of evidence that shows her outward strength, and the second piece of evidence is going to show how she feels helpless or weak. So in this first piece of evidence, this is where Zaylee is refusing to bow before Yemi in their fight. Zaylee stands strong in her stance. I push my shoulders back and thrust my chest forward, straightening though I need to bend. Yemi's features stand out in the crowd of diviners adorned with snow-white hair, diviners who've been forced to bow to those who look like her time and time again. So between my claim and my evidence, I need my introduction to evidence. And this is where I am going to ask myself, what does the reader need to know? What does the reader need to understand about this moment in the story to actually understand what's happening here in my evidence? So I felt like it was important that you as the reader understand that she's actually being asked to bow before Yemi and that she's in a fight with her. And I wanted you to understand that Yemi's father is an Orishan, right? That she is a part of the privileged ruling class and that is why Zaylee is refusing to bow. You really wouldn't understand this quote. You wouldn't understand why she's talking about Yemi's features if you didn't understand those features are a sign that she's a part of the privileged ruling class. So I want you to pause the video right now, and I want for you to go write your claim, your introduction to evidence, and your first piece of evidence. So at this point, you should be about a third of the way done with your claim-based paragraph. Let's work on our first section of explanation. So in your explanation or your analysis, there are a couple of things that you can do to really help yourself think of what you should be writing. You should be explaining your evidence in your own words. You can explain how the specific evidence supports your claim. You're going to talk about specific language in the evidence, and you're going to discuss your claim in detail. Because your sections are shorter, you might not do all of this in each section, but if we look at both sections, you'll have to do all 4 of these pieces. So here's my first section of explanation. Outwardly, Zaylee's actions show strength. She will not show any sign of weakness, even bowing before her opponent. However, it's not Yemi's arrogance that makes Zaylee so angry, it's her privilege. Zaylee knows that she is beneath Yemi just because of her race, and that her people will continue to be oppressed by people who look like Yemi. It is the feeling of not being able to change her circumstances that causes Zaylee to deny Yemi the respect of a bow. So in this explanation, I'm really making sure that I'm explaining my evidence in my own words, and I'm explaining how the specific evidence supports my claim. I might be discussing my claim a little bit in detail, but I'm not talking about language at this point. I didn't see any language that I wanted to talk about in that piece of evidence. I would love for you to pause the video right now and to write your first section of explanation or analysis for your first piece of evidence. Okay, let's work on our transition sentence. So we are transitioning to our second piece of evidence. We're trying to build a bridge between our first piece of evidence and our second. So remember, my first piece of evidence was about where Zaylee is actually showing strength. She's refusing to bow because she doesn't respect Yemi. So I want to provide a transition to my second piece of evidence. So let's take a look at my second piece of evidence. This is when one of the Orishan guards touches Zaylee and she actually kind of shrinks back and she shows weakness or she shows helplessness in this moment because she remembers what it was like when they took her mother away. So here's my introduction to evidence. When one of the Orishan guards touches her, she's reminded of all that she's lost at the hands of Orishans. And here's my evidence. My skin grows hot as I gasp for breath, clenching my hands to hide my trembling. I want to scream, to break every bone in his body, but with each second I wither. In this moment, I'm that little girl again, helpless as a soldier drags my mother away. One of the things I want you to notice that I did here before we work on our transition is that because I'm using two pieces of evidence, I don't want really, really long evidence. So I actually used a ... here because there was a sentence I didn't really need. So let's jump back to my transition. I want to build a bridge between the evidence where Zaylee shows strength and this evidence where Zaylee actually shows a lot of weakness, where she shows how she's kind of afraid of this guard. So here's my transition sentence. Ademi shows Zaylee's feelings of helplessness when the Orishan guards show up as well. So let me read to you just quickly this last sentence of my explanation so you hear this. It is the feeling of not being able to change her circumstances that causes Zaylee to deny Yemi respect of a bow. Ademi shows Zaylee's feelings of helplessness when the Orishan guards show up as well. So I'm transitioning from strength to her feelings of weakness. I would love for you to pause the video right now and to go write your transition sentence, your introduction to your second piece of evidence, and your second piece of evidence. Okay, we are so close to being finished. Let's write our explanation. Your explanation here is going to be similar, but you might think about what you didn't do with your first explanation or analysis. So here's mine. In this moment, the author shows Zaylee's weakness. She uses words like trembling, wither, and helpless. So here I'm talking about the specific language in the evidence. Although she tries to show strength in lashing out at the guards, one touch breaks her. She's overwhelmed by the feelings of helplessness she felt when she lost her mother. She knows that she is powerless in the face of these guards. In a second, they could destroy her and everything she loves. So here I'm really talking about my evidence in my own words, and I'm coming back and really discussing my claim in detail. I'm making sure that you as a reader really understand why Zaylee feels so weak. And it's because she knows that Orishans can destroy her and everything she loves in just 1 second. That's why this moment is such a big deal for her. Pause the video right now and go and write your explanation. Okay, let's finish it up. 1 sentence to go. So at the end of my paragraph, I need to write a concluding sentence or concluding statement that really wraps it up. It brings a feeling of closure for the reader. It reminds the reader of my claim. So here's my concluding statement. Although Zaylee tries to show strength throughout the chapter, beneath it all, she is devastated by the fact that she cannot change her past or her future. Take a moment, go write your concluding statement. You are finished. Great job!